Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 17-year-old mother executed in Denham Town. Opposition calls for breakdown of spending in failed Commonwealth Secretary General bid. And later in sports, Sharika Jackson eyeing sprint world records in Oregon. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Up first, the police are searching for two persons of interest in connection with last night's fatal shooting of 17-year-old student Devonice Nelson on Water Street in Denham Town. Head of the Kingston Western Police Senior Superintendent Michael Phipps says Miss Nelson was shot and killed at her baby father's place 11:30 p.m. last night. SSP Phipps told TVJ News that the baby father and his uncle, who both live in the apartment, have not been seen since the shooting. He's urging both men to report to the Denham Town Police Station.
One is Eric Murdoch, otherwise called Brando. He's the father of Nelson's one-year-old child. And also, we have identified another person of interest, Tevin Cross, the uncle of Mr. Murdoch. We are asking these persons to turn themselves into the Denham Town Police Station no later than 6 p.m. today. This particular murder is one that is very shocking to us at this time, as we have seen where both youngsters, Murdoch and Nelson, were having issues.
It's reported that residents of the apartment complex heard explosions and summoned members of the security forces posted in the zone of special operations in the area. The security personnel entered the apartment and found the partially nude body of the 17-year-old with a bullet wound to the head. And SSP Phipps says the police have launched a search for several suspects in connection with deadly attacks in the West Kingston Division at the weekend. He said the men are being sought in connection with a drive-by shooting in Arnett Gardens on Friday night, in which 7 persons were shot, 1 fatally. 37-year-old Robert Ewart, market clerk of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, was killed in the incident. His killing has sparked tension in downtown Kingston. Now, SSP Phipps says the cops are also pursuing the suspects behind an attack on Lincoln Avenue on Saturday, in which 2 mechanics were shot, 1 fatally. 47-year-old Albert Hibbert was killed in the attack. And the individuals being sought are Renardo Phipps, otherwise called Fryeye of Matthews Lane, Kevin Ruddock, otherwise called Haji of Rome Kingston 13, Alvin Cavalier, otherwise called Bunny, 2 others who have only been identified as Dollar Boss and Ansman. The police are also seeking Sarge from Spanglers and Shamal White, otherwise called Gov. To other news, opposition members are demanding answers this afternoon over the millions of dollars spent on Kamina Johnson-Smith's bid for the post of Commonwealth Secretary General. Details in this report.
With the rise in inflation and the price of goods and services skyrocketing, the government is facing backlash over their recent decision to finance the Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister's bid for the Commonwealth Secretary General position. On Friday, Mrs. Johnson-Smith lost the bid to the incumbent Baroness Patricia Scotland. Councillor for the Waterford Division in Portmore, Friendly Douglas, blasted the government for the decision. He says the funds which were used could have significantly provided additional assistance for the marginalized citizens in the country.
We just spent millions of dollars on a pipe dream for a government senator, for her to win a position. Your money, my money. All of us who spend money because it's GCT, you're paying millions of dollars. 900,000 US dollars for PR. Millions of dollars. I don't know the exact figure. For her not to have won, and poor people money again went down the trenches.
Mr. Douglas says answers are needed on how the funds were spent. He was speaking at the Waterford Divisional Conference on Sunday. Meanwhile, former Jamaican ambassador to the United Nations, Curtis Ward, maintains that Mrs. Johnson-Smith's bid was ill-advised. He's also cautioning her against running for the post again. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
With inflation reaching record highs across the globe and the gas prices climbing by $40 to $60 per litre, opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson is calling for more action from the government to help Jamaicans. He pointed to other administrations across the world making announcements to help citizens cushion the impact on their pockets, but the Jamaican government is yet to make a similar move.
President Biden said today him going to hold federal taxes on gas for 3 months. Now this government, what have they done? They said they're doing something for the taxi man then. Up to now, well, I hear them open up some application business and hopefully people can apply and get it. But that is 3 months after the fact. It wasn't thought through. It was something when the minister, when he was a drive to Parliament, decided to come up with. Jamaican people are suffering and the government must do more.
He also noted that the cost of basic food items is another area that needs to be addressed.
Saltfish 40% is gone up there. And if you look through the basic food items, they range from 10, 15, 20 up to 40%. Now the government said they was going to do something to help the most vulnerable. So they asked every MP to submit 300 names of people from March of this year, 3 months ago, which we did. No, not one person has benefited from that program.
He was speaking during a People's National Party meeting in St. Catherine last week. The government's plan to turn Portmore into Jamaica's 15th parish is again sparking concerns, this time from residents in Hamilton Garden. This after it was revealed that the Waterford fire station only had one truck to put out a blaze, which damaged several houses in the community. Sandy Williams reports.
One house was on fire in Hamilton Garden, Portmore, St. Catherine Sunday morning. The blaze later spread to other houses. Some residents were still in bed at the time.
I was awoken by my neighbor through a phone call that fire is on the building. So we got out. She told me that fire truck, somebody had called the fire brigade, and we just came out. Everybody tried to pull out whatever documents and important things thereof.
Others were not at home.
So when we come now, when we go in, the step already did catch, so we couldn't even save anything upstairs, because the whole of upstairs burn out. I just downstairs, I can just save like the stove and them some of them. Them there alone, nothing I really save.
The residents believe the fire quickly spread to other houses because of how the dwellings are constructed.
The problem is the roof. When one house catch, it go right across. It needs to build up like a arch on the concrete what left there. But it's pier board, so it just go right through. As the wire catch, it just run right across and cause a lot of house to burn.
It just show credence to the fact that the hydrant in this scheme here need to always be in good service, because when you find that one house over here is ablaze, you're looking for at least 3 or 4 houses to be completely damaged, completely destroyed, or damaged in the process.
The Waterford fire station was alerted. However, only 1 unit responded to the blaze. No one was injured, but 5 houses were damaged. Pointing to the lack of resources for emergency responders in Portmore, PNP caretaker for the Gregory Park Division, Oral Gunning, jeered the government's insistence on granting Portmore parish status.
It just goes to show that this is a community that they want, this is what they want to turn into a parish. And you're preparing to turn Portmore into a parish. And you have one fire truck, a simple fire like this, and only one fire truck could have come to attempt to hold the fire.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. 2 months after Beryl Walters and her granddaughter were washed away in the Montego River via the West Gate drain, there's yet to be a fix to the issue identified. More in this report.
It's still left to see what measures will be put in place at Westgate in St. James to prevent the recurrence of the tragic accident due to flood waters in April. A family car was washed away in the Montego River, which left a little girl dead and the body of her grandmother still to be recovered. There have been calls for a rail to be put in place. However, 2 months after the ordeal, nothing. MP for St. James West Central, Marlene Malahoo Fort, says the delay in the fixing of the area is due to a lack of information. She says the local government minister was told no drainage work would be needed, but she says based on a recent visit, that's not the case.
When I visited the scene with members of the Westgate Hills community, I actually saw an area which was pointed out to me as part of the problem because it is not cleaned constantly. And I think there's some other infrastructure work. Once the water comes down, it has the potential, depending on how heavy it is, to wash away persons, as what happened.
She says further discussions will be had with Minister Mackenzie for a proper assessment to be done on the area.
There is some urgency about it. I know the minister is concerned, and as a local MP, so am I. We're very, very distraught that to date the body has not been discovered. Some are of the view that it may be buried under silt. We don't know, but something has to be done in the area.
Residents of the community have suggested that a rail be put in the drain to prevent vehicles being washed into the river. It's a point that the MP has seemingly agreed with.
I find generally that members of a community have a good sense sometimes of what needs to be done, even if they are not the engineer or technical experts. So whatever solution is to be put in place, I believe their views can provide some guidance. And I will ensure that when the experts do the assessment or further assessment, that consideration of whether a rail can make a difference should be part of what is discussed.
Cody-Ann Barrett, TVJ News.
Now, over in neighboring Trelawney, communities surrounding Summerhill finally received a pipeline on Thursday after years of pleas for piped water. Cody-Ann Barrett has that story.
Finally, communities between Barron Hill to Samuel Prospect in Trelawney will have piped water. A pipeline replacement to the area was commissioned on Thursday, and residents are excited.
I had to purchase water because of where I was living. We didn't have any running water, so I would have to purchase water or I would have to cash at the standpipe. Based on what is happening now, I have not purchased any water since this project have started and is now completed, and I'm well happy for that.
The replacement, which cost $270 million, is just one element of the $1.2 billion project aimed at getting potable water to all communities across Jamaica.
We look forward to fulfilling that commitment in the most responsible time. I can't say shortest time because we have to make sure the work is done properly. Right. The procurement is handled in a manner that everyone is comfortable with and that meets the standards of the law. But we are very happy to complete.
11,500 residents will now benefit from that phase. But as we head into the yearly period of drought conditions, NWC's regional manager for St. James and Trelawney, Herman Fagan, is urging residents to conserve.
Based on where the reservoir and the dams are, it is basically trending downwards. Not at a very fast rate, but notwithstanding, it is still cause for concern. So what we basically are saying to our customers, you need to practice proper conservation measures. What we'll ensure that the requisite communication is done. So if and when we need to have lockups, anything of that nature, they are properly advised in advance.
Cody-Ann Barrett, TVJ News.
Welcome back, and we now go back to the Business Minute with Cody-Ann Barrett.
Now that Jamaica's digital currency Jamdex has been enabled as legal tender, 3 additional banks have announced plans to launch digital wallets. JMMB and JN Bank have set timelines between December this year and April 2023 to roll out their mobile payment solutions. First Global Bank, FGB, announced that plans are in place to incorporate central bank digital currency related services in the GK1 mobile app in the near future. And in business globally, the leaders of the G7 nations will announce on Tuesday new sanctions on Russian gold, the country's second most valuable export after energy. Gold exports were worth $15.5 billion to the Russian economy in 2021. G7 leaders are currently meeting in Germany to discuss new ways of punishing the government of President Vladimir Putin for the invasion of Ukraine while trying to limit the fallout on an already stressed global economy. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And Renata Brown is now standing by with your midday sports.
Thank you so much, Gio. And to kick things off, we can tell you that TVJ Sports can report that the Sports Development Foundation has suspended its monthly subvention of $3.5 million to the Jamaica Football Federation for the month of June. According to sources with knowledge of the situation, the JFF was notified in writing by the SDF of its decision on June 21. TVJ Sports understands that the SDF's reason for the suspension of the funds was the JFF's inability to pay back their agreed portion of US $50,000 of the US $105,000 borrowed from PFJL Chairman Chris Williams to arrange a private charter for the Reggae Boys to return to Kingston from Suriname earlier this month in time for the return leg of their CONCACAF Nations League match. Our sources indicate that the SDF has since paid the full amount of the debt to Williams. However, the JFF is yet to compensate the SDF. We will have more on this story in subsequent reports. And some good news for Jamaica as Jamaica's under-20 Reggae Boys are through to the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Championship after a 2-1 win over Haiti in Honduras on Sunday. Jamar Clark gave the Jamaicans a third-minute lead before Tariq Zimenez wrapped up the win in the 84th minute. Stevenson Jude had scored in the 50th minute to equalize for Haiti, who ended the match with 9 players. The young Reggae Boys will next play the Dominican Republic in the last 8, and that game is on Wednesday. Back locally, despite grabbing a 1-0 lead over defending champions Cavalier heading into their second-leg semi-final, head coach of Dunbeholden, Harold Thomas, says he was a little disappointed with his team's attacking play on Sunday at Sabina Park. Peter McGregor's 20th minute goal was all it took to separate the teams going into this week's second leg. In the second semi-final, Harbourview beat last season's runner-up Waterhouse 1-0, with Nicholas Hamilton scoring the winning goal in the 81st minute. The second legs will be played on Wednesday. And in news from athletics, national double champion Shericka Jackson believes she can challenge both the 100 and 200-meter world records in Oregon this year after clocking the third fastest time in the history of the half-lap event at the National Stadium on Sunday. Jackson sped to a personal best and world-leading 21.55 seconds to win the national 200-meter title on Sunday, a time that puts her only behind compatriot Elaine Thompson-Hera's national record of 21.53 and the world record held by Florence Griffith Joyner of 21.34 seconds. Speaking after her impressive run, Jackson says there are still things to fix ahead of the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon this next month. Now, Jackson added that the 200-meter crown, she added the 200-meter crown to the 100-meter title she won on Friday night in a blistering 10.77 seconds. And the entire morning session of the fourth day of the second test between the West Indies and Bangladesh at the Darren Sammy Stadium was lost due to rain. Bangladesh enters the day on 132 for 6, still needing 42 runs before the Windies bat again. Kemar Roach, who surpassed Jamaican Michael Holding on the all-time bowling list, that's for the West Indies, has so far taken 3 for 32 to move to 252 test wickets. Azari Joseph has supported with 2 for 31, while Jaden Seals has 1 for 15. The West Indies on Sunday made 408 all-out after dismissing Bangladesh for 234 batting first. And that's it for your midday sports report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Thanks, Narda. I would say this is a golden generation for female sprints in Jamaica, but we've always had excellent female sprinters. Now with Shericka Jackson, the champion girl, front and center.
Yeah. And good to see you and Blake spoke about it. Men's sprinting coming back.
Men's sprinting coming back as well, running his fastest time in 10 years. It should be interesting at the World Championships this year. What say you?
Well, fast track in Eugene, a number of world records would have been set in Eugene. We could see a couple going. We had the 400-meter hurdles world record, Sydney McLaughlin, over the weekend going as well. So we should see some fantastic times and distances and heights in Eugene next month.
Exciting stuff this summer. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.